Good evening, everybody. This is the Curriculum and Instruction Committee meeting. It is 6:03 p.m. on May 8th, 2017. If we can start with Mr. Okus O'Neill and go around the table, we'll do a roll call.
Dane Okus O'Neill.
Connor Kurtz.
David Rathgeb.
Mary Beth Kiesel.
And Mrs. Kiesel, I believe, is representing the administration tonight, so thank you, Mrs. Kiesel. We have one member of the public, and Mrs. Bites is unable to attend tonight. She had a death in the family, so we send our condolences from the CNI committee. First up, standard-based report card presentation, Mrs. Kiesel.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to start out by giving everyone a report card. This one for you.
All A's?
Please take a look at them.
Did we earn all A's,
I'm going to
Mrs.
ask you a
Kiesel?
few questions.
Okay.
Nope, not all A's.
That math grade looks familiar.
OS.
Thank you. Okay, so this is your report card. Please look at it, and if you would please tell me something that you know from looking at your report card. So something that you know about your grades from looking at your report card.
I know I got an F in math.
You got an F in math?
I did.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, my glasses are out. So if I'm looking at this correctly, I guess is that the trimester 1?
Yes.
And trimester 2? So,
Yes.
Okay, so
You just have trimester 1
just
grade.
that trimester 1 grade, and can't see the next one.
If you point, I'll tell you what it says. Those are comments.
I think-
These are your grades.
I think it's in the gray. I think that's the copy of it.
Yeah, these are all the grades that go down here. They're percentages.
So, either you get a numerical grade or some classes like only have satisfactory or
The encore. Can you tell me how you're doing in...
Social studies, math,
Okay,
science,
that's fine.
Social studies. Looks like I have a 93, which would equate to an A on the scale that we have here.
Okay. Oh, good. So you're using a scale. How about you, Mr. McKnight? Can you tell me something about your report
I
card?
can indeed. I am tri-part in math, and I'm very good at it. Because my comments say that is my heart. Extreme or exerts maximum effort.
Okay.
But I have a 50%.
So I have another question for you. Can you tell me what you are not good at in math? Not from the report card. Okay. How about you, Mr. Kurtz? You said you saw a failing grade in math. Can you tell me what you struggle with?
I can't tell you that, no.
Okay.
But you see, I have 100 in spelling, so there's something going on there, and I don't know what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to know.
Sounds like you're doing a nice job in spelling. Can you tell me something about your report card?
I'm apparently not doing that well in grammar either,
Okay.
and my effort is apparently inconsistent in band.
Okay, so let's take a look at grammar for a minute. Can you tell me what you do well in grammar?
No,
No. Can you tell me what you're struggling with in grammar?
no.
No. So I just wanted to use this as an example. This is our traditional report card that we have been using for several years. To me, we could do better with the amount of information that parents get on how their children are doing in school. So we have moved to a standards-based report card, and I do have a very brief presentation to share with you. All right. Oh, it shows on my screen, but not on yours. Hang on 1 second, please. Okay.
I was going to say, Mr. O'Neil got a satisfactory in computer, so he might be able to help.
So this school year, 2016-2017, students in grades K through 2 received a standards-based report card. That is unlike the traditional report card that I just shared with you. The type of report card that they receive now is a report card that offers parents a much more detailed understanding of their child's academic performance. Next school year, 2017-2018, we are going to continue rolling out the report cards, and students in grades 3 through 5 will receive a standards-based report card. So we have moved from the traditional report card to the standards-based report cards. Here's the report card that I believe you just had, or similar to it. This is the report card that consists of percentages in each subject area: math, spelling, grammar, science, and social studies. Students are going to continue to receive a report card each trimester in each of these areas. However, the new report card will have a different format. We've identified, we had a committee, and we worked with all the staff in identifying learning targets for each subject and each grade level, and they are aligned with the PA core standards. This is what the new report card looks like. Somewhat. I have to preface that preface this with somewhat, because I don't have the electronic version. The IU is still in the process of completing that. So right now, we have the report cards. I'm working with the IU so that they will develop the electronic grade book and report card for grades 3 through 5. This is what I sent them. This represents the work that the teachers did. And so you can see that under math, it has several different domains: numbers and operations, operations and algebraic thinking. And then under that, it has each competency that relates to the standard that students are working on. Now, the NAs that you see mean that that particular competency is not graded during that semester. However, because it's an electronic version, there's no NA. The competency just won't come up on the report card until there is a grade.
That's helpful.
So students will receive a grade which reflects what they know and are able to do for each specific learning target. Percentages or letter grades will no longer be used to report student progress. So that's a huge shift. Instead, we will be using a 4-point scale. So the students can earn a 4, a 3, a 2, or a 1. 1 would be below basic, 2 is basic, 3 is proficient, and 4 is advanced. So you've probably heard those terms before when we're talking about PSSAs. One of the biggest misconceptions of the standards-based report card is that the numbers 4, 3, 2, 1 equate to the letter grades A, B, C, and D. This is not the case. The report card will include important keys to explain the grading system. So if you look at the 4-point scale, this just gives you a better understanding of the scale. So 4 means that the student excels within the grade level standards. A student earning a 4 independently uses and applies knowledge in ways that demonstrate higher level thinking skills. Typically, there are just a few students in a classroom who would receive a 4. 3 is proficient. The student meets the grade level standards. A student earning a 3 demonstrates understanding of grade level skills and concepts and requires minimal support. This indicates strong, excellent work at this grade level. This is a goal for the grade level and should be celebrated. 2 means basic. The student is just approaching the grade level standards. A student earning a 2 has not met the standards, but is progressing toward achieving the skills and learning end-of-year grade level concepts. Some support is needed from the teachers. If you notice, we're trying to include and engage parents as much as possible, and so the support is needed from all. And 2 indicates ongoing growth. And then 1 is below basic. A below basic grade means that the student is not yet making sufficient progress towards grade level standards. A student earning a 1 is currently not meeting the grade level standard. The student demonstrates an inconsistent understanding and application of knowledge. Intervention is needed from teachers and parents.
Is there, like, let's say I had a child who received a 1 or a few 1s on his report card. Would that convey to the parent the necessary degree of, hey, there's some issues here? Because I'm wondering, like, if seeing a bunch of 2s and a 3 and maybe a 4 and then a 1, like, to me that doesn't maybe send a message like seeing an F would, or seeing something a little bit more stark.
Definitely should send a message that
Okay.
the student is struggling if they're 1s, if you look at the key. And each specific concept or skill is graded. So it's a change in mindset for parents as well. So we have to make sure that we're doing a good job of explaining.
Would there be a way, maybe as part of that explanation, or even on the report card itself, to say, like, below basic / intervention recommended, or support recommended, or a way just to communicate that element of intervention is needed from teachers and parents? Like, can we somehow incorporate that into the grade title itself? If you think that's valuable or worth it, just throwing it out.
Sure, and there's also a comment section on here that's, I won't be showing you tonight because that piece has not been completed by the IU. We've completed it, but the IU piece is not finished yet. But yeah, that's a good point too. Parents need to know that intervention is needed when they see
Right.
1s.
And even on that note, though, perhaps there could be an area on this report card where it recommends avenues for parents to engage. Like, say a student gets all 4s, even, like recommended parental actions. Maybe it could be
Like for enrichment. or
yeah,
something.
enrichment or some type of cultural stimulation or something. And if a student's receiving all 2s, I'd want to know as a parent, well, what can I do to help, or a few 2s, what can I do to help my student? Maybe the teacher could put in comments, spend some time working on multiplication tables or something, I don't know. But just like a little box on there for like enrichment, or just communicating what we can do to strengthen at home, or I don't know. I'm sure you've thought of all these things anyway. Maybe I should let you keep going before interrupting with these ideas.
Well,
but.
I can keep going and then see if you...
Okay, I'll try to keep my
maybe
mouth
answer
shut.
some- No, I appreciate your questions. So, at the same time, in addition to the academic portion of the report card and the grades, we also believe it's very important, especially at the elementary level, to report learning behaviors. This is the old piece on a report card that some people refer to as conduct or work habits, but we refer to it as learning behaviors. And this is graded by pluses for satisfactory, you can see the scale there on the left, and minus for needs improvement. So those are the things, the specific categories that fall under learning behaviors. Parents will have the opportunity to hear more about standards-based report cards at the beginning of the school year, during parent conferences, because at the elementary level right now, the conferences are scheduled before the report card comes out. So that's another time that the teacher can sit with parents and explain the report cards. And then I'm going to be developing a frequently asked questions link on the website, because like I said, I think the education piece is important in these new report cards, because it is so different than what parents are accustomed to.
What kind of turnout do we typically get at the conferences?
At the elementary level, we get a good turnout, especially, I think, in the fall.
70%?
It varies, and Mrs. Hefter, do you know offhand what a good number would be for the percentage of parents that attend elementary conferences?
I would say about 90%.
Wow.
Would you say
okay.
90,
I
that
think
high?
it's high, especially at the lower level.
Great.
Yeah, it seems like the older the child gets, you know.
Yeah. Well, that would be a great opportunity then, I was thinking.
Mhm. So I did, actually, that's the end of the presentation. The goal of all of this work is, of course, to continue to improve teaching and especially learning in the school district by giving more detailed, accurate information. I did print copies of the report cards for 3, 4, and 5.
Perfect.
Just please keep in mind that that's not what the final product will look
Okay.
like, but this is the content that will be on the report cards. And I think you'll be able to see when you asked about how would the parent know exactly how to help. It's so specific in reporting what
They should
this.
be able to,
Mhm.
okay.
So there's
Thank you.
one each of 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade.
So, a few questions. So this is just intended, obviously, I know when we started this, is just for K through 5, right?
Yes, it is just an elementary initiative.
So, how much more detail, or I guess how much more time is the teacher is going to be have to put into his report cards?
Do you mean in the actual grading when they do the report cards?
Well, kind of actually all, because you have a lot more detail.
Yeah, that's a good question, because I know that teachers were a little overwhelmed when we first started the project a few years back, in thinking, oh my goodness, because it's obviously a lot longer than the old report card. This will take forever, but we started with K through 2, and I did get feedback after the report cards went out, and the teachers were pleasantly surprised at how easy it was. So it's really not a whole lot more work. The electronic piece and the grade book does a lot of the work for you.
Okay. And so does this process also help us then, so when we go to 2nd and 3rd grade, group the kids a little bit differently? Would that also translate to middle school as far as, when they make the jump there, as far as, grouping the kids at all? I mean, there's different kids, where they learn is in different ways they learn can be more challenging for the teacher, right? If you try to group those kids, break them up.
So, do you mean like ability grouping?
Yeah, we're really kind of drilling down more into how these kids are learning, right?
Specifically what they're learning and what they can do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So will that data be used to do something like that?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We'll be using the data to see, which kids didn't do this. I mean, there's lots of different data.
So when the kids come in the fall for 3rd grade teacher, they already know what strengths and weaknesses are of their students. They can kind of, since we're trying to differentiate our teaching,
Mhm.
they then be able to take that data and target those kids a little bit.
They can.
Or they should be, or they will be.
Well, it depends on the teacher. I mean, we have other data points that we use depending on the grade. We have specific data points that we use. So, did you want to say something?
With class placements, you were talking about class placements. We look at the F&P assessments, the family supplemental assessments, more
That's
frequently
reading.
than we would look at that for class placements and those purposes. As a classroom teacher, they're looking at their own data. They'll look at the report card, but
Yeah, I'm saying
they tend to-
we're drilling down, we're getting more data. I was wondering, we're trying to help the parents a little bit by seeing how the kids are doing, but should we be using this data as well?
Well,
and we do.
we do use data. I wouldn't say we specifically use report card data. You have to remember, the goal for the report card to us is communicating to parents the progress of their children. The staff uses other data that we have already very well defined. This is what we're going to look at. This is what we're going to collect for the teachers for next year, each year. So like Melanie said, the reading assessment, the math, we have a math assessment, we have study island, we have PSSAs. We use those data points for placement. Any other questions?
Well, I was just looking at this, and I wonder if it might be information overload for a lot of parents. Like if we were to get a 4-page report card, like where do I even begin wondering? And
Well, you won't be getting one physically.
It'll be
We'll get
online.
the first one, just so you know that the
Yeah.
report card went out. Yes, they're all going to be
Okay.
online, so we won't be using paper anymore for report cards unless someone requests.
would the online, do you have an idea when that might be online? The online system, like,
Well, I was hoping to have it for tonight,
Okay.
but apparently they've upgraded the e-school at the IU, and the person that I'm working with is really involved in
I
the
see.
upgrade, so he's a little behind in his scheduling.
is eSchool what we use right now? Okay, and that's like the,
It's through e-school.
what was it called?
What's it?
Elements, or no, student service, students, sorry. Yeah, there you go,
Student
this is.
information.
Oh, well, what's the parent access portal?
Home access center.
Home, okay, that
So
was
they're
what I
all
was thinking.
interconnected. E-schools, the
Yeah.
part that the administration and the guidance and every disciplinarian all use. Then the teacher access center is the grade book, and the parents have access to the grade book.
Okay,
So they're all interconnected.
interesting, thanks.
So I would say that, well, this summer,
Okay,
like I said, I was hoping for this time of year, but he did say to me that he's really consumed with another project right now.
okay. I'd be interested to see what that looks like, even just a printout of what the parent sees when they log in. Like, I don't need to be see like a
It looks just
walkthrough.
like what you're looking at. I use it for my son who's in first grade. And what you see is literally a PDF of
Oh,
that.
so this document,
Yep.
so it wouldn't be clear necessarily.
We know you weren't overloaded because you're just the teaching professional you are, so you were.
I'm gonna remain administrator.
Do any other committee members,
You're not going to put your mom hat on?
do any other committee members share my thoughts on or
Too much.
concerns that it might just be, and maybe it's the way, maybe if we could pull this is getting into the grass here, but pull out the chart a little bit, so instead of some of these items that fall onto 2 lines, we can make it 1 line. Like, just because I'm between the header and, like, it's just,
I
It's not intuitive.
guarantee you're going to get a comment, I can't help my kid in math anymore because I understand the math. They're going to get, I don't even know what kind of grade they get in math because you get an A or a B, kid.
yeah.
Oh, Dad, it's a 2. Was that an A or a B? What is that?
And like I said, it is a big change. There are several districts that have gone to standards-based report card, even in Berks County. But it's a big change. Some of the schools, even secondary, are moving toward standards-based report card. I think they might get a percentage in addition to grading each specific learning
Oh,
competency.
Interesting. Seeing as this is a pretty large change, I think the board should be aware to some degree beyond me just saying we discussed a standards-based report card.
Sure, how would you like that to happen?
That's a good question. I don't think we need the full presentation that we just got now.
Maybe sending them what you have, would that be?
I think that would be helpful. Maybe if we could do like a 5-minute presentation. I don't know, not now, not
I mean,
immediately.
this is something that was already voted on.
Okay.
We did this, whether on this last
When did we vote on
year
this?
or?
Yeah,
I mean,
it was separate,
it was more than that.
yeah.
I wasn't seated yet. I
Oh.
don't remember.
It was
voting.
separate.
I mean, I would, I mean, what do you think about having that presentation, send that presentation to the rest of the board?
That would be helpful.
That
Oh,
would
I
be-
And then I think that's good because if it's already been approved and everything, then there's no board action required. This is just an
Right.
FYI.
Yeah, it was just informational, and then, and I can let them know if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to sit down with them and, go through it with them, or
Yeah. Would you mind sending me the just template, the Word document for this, or however? I just want to play around a little bit to see if I can find a way to make it look a little bit more like all on one page, or not all on one page, but
Well,
just a little bit tighter.
and that's the piece too that Mr. Bentz from the IU will be doing as well. So I know that Megan had said this is what it will look like. It's still not in its final stages, so.
Okay.
That's my
Um,
piece.
Okay, I'd be interested in seeing it when it's in its final stage then, just me personally. But any other comments? Does anybody have any?
Well, and I will-
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Kiesel.
Sure, thank you.
Next up is AP Geography textbook discussion. Who's leading that? Is that Mr. McKnight?
Yes. So you have the panel curriculum, you have the textbook review. This is the book that the Socialist Party chose and vetted against really what is the most commonly used book, most commonly used book out there for this
I
course.
feel like they're processing our agenda tonight.
I think it's even less. So any questions you have, I'm ready to answer. I did speak with Mr. Smoginski and Rob. You knew he'd be away. We're likely going to be looking at, Meg, what do we have about maybe no more than 30 books I think this year for human geography.
And these are to be ordered, they're on the agenda then?
Yeah, they're ready to go. Whenever Rob pulls the trigger to send the PO.
Okay. I think they're on the agenda for the end of the month.
Like
I'm wondering if they're on.
there are
agenda
also,
already.
in terms of, we were hoping for a bigger number, but more kids seem to have gone to AP European, of the 9th grade students, but that, I think we'll see once we offer it for credit in lieu of the 9th grade course, like we do AP. If you
Right,
take AP
yeah.
Euro, then we'll see a better balance. So it's probably a good thing only to have this number right now to work through the first year in phase 1, then come back in phase 2, and have the kinks work out for that younger group. So,
Is it feasible, this is what I would have liked to have done had I gone to Daniel Boone High School once we added all these wonderful AP classes. Could somebody take all the humanities AP courses in their Daniel Boone
in
career?
your career.
Okay.
I mean, certainly by the time you're in your junior and senior year, your schedule starts to open up
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Okay,
But right now, if you do the AP capstone model, you could do it, the 2 AP capstone courses, and then 4, 6, or 7 AP courses.
great.
You only need 4 to get the capstone.
Yeah.
Additionally. But
So we have AP Geography, AP European History, AP US History.
AP Psych.
AP Psych.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And so ultimately what can happen is, what I think will happen with these kids in AP capstone is they will begin to focus on the high interest areas. Kids who are AP science kids will take the 2 research
Yeah.
courses and a lot of AP science. Kids who are humanities-based kids will take the 2 research courses and a lot of the humanities courses. And art, and we'll see that all play out that way. I think that's the
Yeah.
idea.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So feel free. If you have questions, let me know.
All right, I think we'll just pass, we have some other textbooks coming up, so we'll just kind of have a few minutes and we'll page through them, and we might have some comments, both for Mr. McKnight and Mrs. Rexroad later. But next up, middle school math textbook and middle school science. Why don't we just bring both of them up and we can
All
pass
right,
them
well,
around?
I'll start with the math. The math does not have new curriculum with it. This is our last math textbook that needs to be aligned with the Common Core standards. That is for our 7th grade students who are taking accelerated and honors pre-algebra. And that's the recommendation form. It is double cycle.
I think this is the first time we're seeing one of these recommendation forms. It looks good.
And then science, I'll pass these out. There are 3, 1 for each grade level. I'll just give each of you one of them. And I have a recommendation form, and I also have the curriculum because the science curriculum was rewritten to align to the standards. It had not been written since 1999, and our current science textbooks in the middle school are from the year 2000, so obviously science has been updated quite a bit since then. So there's the textbook recommendation form. And I'll get you the curriculum. Sixth grade, seventh grade. One thing that's a little bit different, based on the current standards. Science did realign a little bit. 7th grade is still seventh grade is still life science. However, 6th grade is all earth and space, and I'm sorry I didn't give you the other two. And 8th grade is physical science. So that does mean a little bit of a shift for what is being currently taught, but there is a copy of the curriculum for each of the grade levels that is listed at the top which ones they are, and then the textbook and the textbook recommendation form.
Great.
And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
How long do you expect these books to be good for?
Well, we've made it with the current ones for 17 years, so I am sure 17 years.
All right. Yeah, wow.
But
Let the record
obviously-
reflect that Mrs. Rexroad won't ask for more books for 17
No, I
years.
I won't be asking for them for a while. I mean, it is nice to have updated materials, especially with things like earth and space science. I mean, there's so many things that are different. Pluto is no longer a planet. With all of them, there's so much stuff that is updated and more current, obviously, than what they're doing now. And they're supplementing what they have now, but it will be nice to actually have a textbook that they can refer to and really use, as opposed to relying on making copies of tons of things and that sort of thing. The other nice thing, too, is currently the book that they have is actually divided into 4 parts, so every grade level has 4 smaller books. You might remember those. From middle school, they were 4 little books, and you'd get one, and then you'd go through that one, and then you get another one.
I don't know if that might have come after my time. I don't know.
No.
Oh, I don't remember then.
But this is all condensed into one textbook, which I think is nice, and the teachers like that as well. Much easier to manage and just much more sophisticated material than what they currently have too.
I was going to comment on the math textbook. It looks like all of the photographs in there are from the 1990s. Like, you think for the money we pay for these textbooks, they could update the stock photography that they use. But
That is also the teacher edition, not that that makes much of a difference, but I don't know if it's distorted also
Yeah.
because of being
no, it's just like
larger.
you could tell by the clothing and all that. Like, this is from the 1990s. But anyway, just a comment.
That is actually the same series, the math textbook that you have. That's the same series as the one that we purchased for 8th grade pre-algebra. Again, that's for the accelerated and the honors 7th grade pre-algebra. But they are, it is nice that they are the same series, and so the 8th grade really likes what they're using this year. So that's the accelerated 7th grade version. They can't actually use the same textbook as the 8th grade because the standards are different in 7th and 8th grade.
Where do we use Go Math?
That's up to 6th grade, and then in 7th grade we use it for Math 7 only. We did not want to use it for the advanced courses, so starting with pre-algebra, they do not use Go Math.
Interesting. Is there difficulty there for the student transitioning into, like, going from one level?
No, we don't see that at all. It's just the difference between a consumable textbook to that textbook, which is a little bit more advanced, and just the way that it's taught. That is actually on the accelerated level, so it is geared toward those students who would be taking pre-algebra in 7th grade, which is really nice. And the math does not have that
Okay.
as part of their series.
Everywhere I turn, greenhouse gases and notebooks.
Even the math ones.
That's in the standards.
Wow.
That doesn't say anything about our huge reduction in CO2 due to the switch to natural gas.
Oh, nothing about that,
Power
yeah.
plants.
Oh.
Nothing about that.
Interesting, wow.
You already had one of those?
I don't think I had that one.
Oh, right.
Oh, there are other signs. Oh, sorry, I thought they were all, they're just different grade levels.
Exactly.
So there's probably not
So
too
the
much.
earth and space is 6th grade, the life science is 7th, and then the physical science is 8th.
Fifth grade, how was on the earth and fifth grade?
Yeah, I just assumed they were all close enough.
I think it's part of the 6th grade. It's either the 6th or the 8th.
Okay.
After having not looked at a textbook, an elementary or middle school or high school textbook for at least, 6 or 7 years now, it's just interesting how, we have all the highlights, we have all the colors, we have all the italicized text, little boxes, like it's just,
You have to have a lot to grab there.
yeah, it's,
Yes, it's in the open space science.
So do they all now have like built-in links to go to online?
Yes.
As part of the,
Yes, there is an online component to this as well.
all right. Do we have any feedback or anything? I don't know. We're supposed to approve these, and then the board's supposed to approve them. I don't have any objection to moving forward. Any objection to approving these? Okay, great. We'll have that then for the board. Yep. And next, a discussion on aid staffing. I put this on the agenda. Mr. Rathgeb had requested just to see if we can get an update on how.
There was more of a, I wanted to know how our new service was working as far as substitutes. And then we also did that for aides. We had that service as well. I was kind of curious as to how that was performing, whether we've had adequate coverage for aides as well as teachers. And
Define adequate.
It's improving.
it's better, okay. Well, that's,
Yes. Agreed. It was
Mr.
better.
McLean's not over the email.
No, this is whoever chimed in. The aid staff, and everything is better. And I think part of it also was when Mr. Harris, had staff contact a live voice. Our numbers were cut in half at the high school, absentees. Now it's getting a little tougher now. This time, like May's tough. But overall, I think the numbers have been much better. Fill rate's better because there are less folks out.
And I was really curious about the aides because I know we have a lot of part-time and they would work, they would stay in the fill coverage, but now they had to apply to the service, was paying less. And I wasn't sure if that was an issue or not. So that the aid coverage is,
A lot of them do fill in for the other half a day.
so they still do a fill-in?
Some, I would say probably about half of them signed up for the agency,
Okay.
and maybe about half of them did not, who just were not
Curious,
interested.
their pay is already mediocre and then they were actually, getting paid less. So-
We have more that cross over as substitute teachers and do half-day substitute teaching instead of the coverage.
Doesn't really apply though.
Right, yeah.
As we say, if we have an aide that leaves, we normally are able to find another person. It's only if they're out for the whole day that we rely on ASOP. But we don't have many situations that arise that we can't find something to do in the meantime. So we don't have many that happen.
All right, so better could be better. Better than that.
Improved.
Improved. Thank you.
All right, next up was something that we had discussed in the policy review committee, where we were reviewing the policy on class rank, and somebody suggested that this might be a discussion worth having in the CNI committee, just because it seems like there are so many different things schools are doing out there in terms of class rank, and I thought it would be interesting to investigate. I'm not pushing for anything or any changes, but I'd like to hear the pluses and minuses of what other schools do, and I had talked to Mr. Hurley about maybe giving a little overview, and seeing as Mr. Hurley isn't here, would anybody from the administration, can anybody speak to this? Has anybody done any research on there? Mr. McKnight, do you have any thoughts on?
Yeah, and Mr. Brown and I spoke about this. So the first thing, there are, I don't know if it's half, there are a number of districts out there who have done away with class rank. I mean, it's a big deal in Daniel Boone, and kids chase it, families chase it. It's something that we, for God's sakes, have a wall dedicated to the valedictorian in the auditorium, So I certainly, it's a traditionalist view. I personally like it, but that doesn't mean that the other way is wrong. I think when I see its own policy for the next round of policy, one of the things that we have to do is make sure that the policy and the guidelines match, which I think there's some incongruency there right now. But if you want to look at it, the other piece that you ultimately decide is if you go to that, it has to be a rollout from some years back, because you've had students who now are in 10th and 11th grade have been, doggedly on this for a couple of years, trying to be the valedictorian or salutatorian. And if you pull that rug out from them, I don't think that's fair either. So if any change does come about, I would say, with the incoming ninth graders, we would roll out, 3 to 4 years out.
Would there be a benefit on the whole for our students if we were to switch to a model that doesn't have it? Like, do you think more of our students would be competitive at top schools, or probably not? Would they be less competitive?
I think the GPA is the driver, for that,
Okay.
the SAT, ACT, and GPA, than whether the valedictorian or salutatorian.
Yeah.
I mean, it's certainly a nice, recognition, and it helps those kids, but I don't think it hurts the other ones who are in the top 10 or 15
Yeah.
because they don't have it.
The schools that have done away from it, like, what's the merit to the thing,
I was just going to ask that question, yeah.
Yeah, you mean why do they do away with it?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of parental pressure. I think that, and there becomes, and we cut ours off, by the way, at the end of the third quarter of their senior year. That's the final calculation for students. But I think we get into, we don't even really share the class rank until the end of the year, because we don't want people constantly hounding counselors, hounding their students. It becomes a parental-driven piece. So there's that pressure piece. I think that's why the merit behind people who have done away with it. I don't know that we have a lot of that. Maybe we can certainly weigh in on it. I mean, people are certainly conscious of it in our school. But we don't get a lot of calls. They accept that that information is not going to be shared in a weekly, quarterly basis, and it will play out how it plays out. So,
my parents desperately wanted me to finish in the top 10 of my high school class, and I intentionally finished 11th just to So I was seriously in contact with the people who would share that information with me every week to make sure that I was not in the top 10.
Well, and I think, looking at it with the ranking piece, even, we don't use a 4.0 scale, but depending on the scholarship or the school they're applying to, that information is appropriate. So it's one of those things where, will we not run the rank report even though the kid needs to know if they're in the top certain percentage of their class for a scholarship? The information will be existing just like it does now, but will it change the competitiveness and the stress? Absolutely. I mean, we have kids who are in tears depending on where they are because it matters to them or to their parents or what the case may be. At the same time, is it a motivator? Yeah. I mean, they know where they want to be, and there's some kids who are going to be motivated by that and interested in that. But overall, is it something we put a high level of pressure on? No. It's something that in our building, people pay attention to and are curious about, but ultimately it's not something that we use tremendously for anything beyond the speeches and, again, their qualifications for certain things as far as outside scholarships and things like that.
The parental piece is just so interesting to me, because thinking about the friends in my grade who were in those positions, and my brother was valedictorian when he graduated, and it's just it's interesting how, because I know you say that there's a lot of pressure from parents, but I think that from the students themselves, I wonder what that breakdown is. The students who are being pushed and who really don't care that much versus the students who really care and the parents don't care that much.
It's group specific sometimes too. Like every class has their own personality throughout, and some of them want to be ahead of that person in comparison to that, like you said, or just I want to be. They're statistically, who knows?
Yeah,
There's
interesting.
a real trend or pattern.
Wow, okay. So I guess there's no recommendation really to change the status quo, and there's not been push, I haven't ever gotten an email from a parent complaining about how we do it in Daniel Boone. So I was just interested in hearing about that, so. All right, well, that's all we have there. So moving on to item 7, faculty roundtable. Mrs. Owens, if you'd like to come up and join us for discussion, feel free. But if not, you can you can stay there. We're inviting. So this is something that we had talked about a few months ago, inviting faculty more to come to these meetings. And I had sent out a draft email I wanted to send out to the faculty about just extending this invitation. And there was a little bit of, I didn't send the email yet. Just because I wanted there to be an opportunity for the administration to weigh in again. And Mr. Harris and Mr. Hurley. Mr. Hurley had said everything was good before, but there were some questions just about chain of command and making sure that items come to the board or the committee vetted, and there's not going to be anything kind of going around proper channels of authority and anything. So I just wanted to give the committee another chance to discuss this, and they thought we should go back, or maybe not have the faculty roundtable, so to speak, but just let faculty know, hey, you can come to these meetings and participate. Either way, I think we need to let them know, but in light of the comments that we got from Mr. Harris and Mrs. Bites sent out a follow-up, I just wanted to give the committee another chance to think this through if they didn't want to do it, but I'm still committed to moving forward with this. But in the interest, again, of not ruffling too many feathers, I thought it would be on the safe side just to bring it up one more time before sending out that email. So, is there any objection?
No, I still think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Despite the,
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that it took so long to get that, those comments back.
Hmm.
Thought it was pretty clear.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think the teachers would value to have the input. Now, if it does turn into a
We can always
end
reevaluate.
around or,
Yeah.
a just come in and grumble, then we might need to rethink it. But,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, we need to clearly state that it's an opportunity for them to have some input, but not if it's
Yeah.
as a way to try and skirt.
Right. Okay, great. So that's all on this agenda. I did want to make a comment on next month's meeting, though. I'm tempted to, I'd really like to move it unless there's significant objection. I have an inescapable personal obligation on that day, and I won't be able to attend. Now, of course, my presence isn't, necessary for these meetings. Somebody else could chair it in my absence, but if there is no objection, if we could perhaps move it to another day, I'd be appreciative. I'm thinking we can't do it before the voting meeting because there's a policy review committee meeting, and we're not meeting at all in June. The alternative is, if there's not much to discuss, we don't need to have one at all, but I'm worried they're considering that it is the end of the year, maybe some things will want to come up for the fall, and we don't meet in June. It might be safe to have a meeting in May.
I wanted to throw, if I could, one thing out that I don't know how much more will be down the road. This one would be one that we would have, which is class size students under 10. I want to make the curriculum committee aware
Oh,
that
okay.
we have 2 that we want to move forward. Journalism, which has 9 students. We need that to create some paper.
Yeah.
And then AP Physics 2 has 7 students. So we're going to be seeking permission, and the reason we need it now is as we round out the schedule, or finishing it, our goal is before students leave this year to be able to cover their courses. So
When
those
do
are
you-
the 2.
When do you need approval? What if we just, is there objection to putting that onto the full board? Does any board member have, or committee member have any issue with letting those classes run? unless you want more information, we don't need to decide it tonight, but I'm figuring since we have that information now.
How many students were in AP Physics 1?
You know, off the top of your head, how many from last year? It doesn't necessarily correlate that way, like,
Oh, okay.
one doesn't necessarily go to two. Students can take, because they're different math bases, calculus and algebra, so some students will not take that necessarily.
Okay.
But for students who are very science, engineering, and math oriented, it would be unusual for a high school not to have
The calculators.
A, B, or 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You know, both options for students.
Right, right.
So
Okay.
there were 35 in AP Physics 1.
Right. And it drops down substantially because it gets much harder in 2. And then there's also a C, which is electromagnetic and all that kind of stuff. So there's 3 different physics.
Okay.
The courses that we're not bringing forward that have under 10, AP Music Theory and Intro to Music, because the numbers, I met with the department chair. She thinks it's better to let them go dormant another year and believes that the following year we will be over 10 without any substantial setback. The other one is SAT Prep, which is only the verbal side, not the math side, has 8 students. And again, you know, most of it's fallen to parents individually now. Most of us are going out and hunting that themselves.
Could we, for that SAT prep, instead of having it a course, could it be something maybe part of Blazer Summer?
It could be a lot of things that wouldn't have to be a course.
Can we think about that on your end, maybe ways to expand that? Because I have a sister who just took the SAT, and we're trying to figure out ways to, and sort of, there's an SAT course, but.
That's why I'm not bringing that one.
Okay.
You bringing it to the table, just letting you know that those are the 3 I did not.
And then I have an idea for the journalism class. Could we, just throwing this out there, we talk a lot about yearbook. Can we combine those two?
You know, those things are happening. We're into publications. There's a movement to, we're going to move down to 136, which is the library classroom, and partnering with Mr. Matz. That's moving into a publication center with journalism, yearbook, TV studio. So those things are in process.
Great.
Grants being written, and we'll update you if we're awarded. And we'll let you know.
And that sounds, even thinking about, there's so many so many jobs out there in communications and design and all of that. So to bundle those.
That's what will happen in that mass communication pathway.
Yeah.
So that place is a work in progress, that whole piece. And we just have to see. We got to win some grants yet, which Jen DeMile's writing. And this ties into the iPad technology. There's a bunch of pieces that are going to be interrelated, and we're not quite ready to say, hey, take a look at this, because it wouldn't be a quality level.
Okay, great. Well, on what about June? Sorry, I'm jumping. Anything else on that front? Okay.
Well, while Mr.
Yeah.
Peg's speaking, do we make progress on our band?
Yes, it's happening. We put it in a quarter credit for the first quarter of the year. Curriculum and details to be worked through, with Mr. Wolf and Ms. Ben, but it's moving forward.
Do you think that could have any effect on the AP Music Theory and Intro to Music?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's a good question.
Maybe down the road.
The band piece a little bit off the pace of that, of the AP Music Theory. There's some things we have to get cleaned up in that department yet.
Okay. Well then, in terms of next month's meeting, we have a Transportation Committee meeting, which Mr. O'Neil and I are on Tuesday the 27th, I believe. Or that's the pattern. I don't know if you're looking to have one next month.
Yeah, I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Either.
Well, in the event you do, or I mean, if we can maybe double up, we can have this afterward or before. Would that work for you, Mr. Rathgeb? Tuesday the 27th is the day after a board meeting?
Good. Yeah.
Okay, I'll put that down as a potential date.
Is that June 27th?
Yeah,
May.
June. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't like to deviate from our pattern, but alas. And what I like about that is it's kind of in between. It's close to July, and since we don't meet in July, there'll be a little bit of extra lead time for the administration if there's anything they want to put together for that committee meeting. Conversely, if something needs to be approved by the full board, it might be a little bit late, but hopefully that won't happen. All right, any other committee comments? Anything from the administration? Any ideas? We have a little bit more time left if there's anything you want to bring up. Anything? Nothing? All right. Well, seeing there's nothing else to discuss tonight, the CNI meeting is adjourned at 7:01.